So one of the things to think about maybe when you're adding more hands to your range, say in your normal games, is does that hand blend well with my range? And what that means is, well, one, does it blend well with my range? Or does it help my range in some way? And two, is it going to play well post-flops? Because you have a lot of hands that may have a decent equity edge pre-flop, but don't play well post-flop. And the classic example of that is something like 3-betting out of position with small pocket pairs or small aces, when hands like that are very comfortable taking passive lines and getting to showdown cheaply. I don't necessarily mean when you're sort of in the small blind trying to shut the big blind out, but if you're in the big blind with ace-3, there isn't a lot of reason to go ahead and 3-bet the button with that. Because even though you might have like small equity edge pre-flop or be doing at least pretty well, what will happen is you're going to get up in all these situations where you bet the flop, your opponent raises, and you still want to kind of call down because there's some draws out there. And when a lot of money goes in, that hand doesn't do very well. And most of the time, that hand is just going to want to see cheap showdowns. So here, I actually prefer a raise on this flop. I'm not entirely sure why I called. So I'm going to take one off here. I have some backdoors, and the flop is rainbow, so if I spike up a 4, I'm going to be doing pretty well most of the time. And I'll just pitch it here. But yeah, so I would definitely prefer to raise on the flop here. I don't think the 10 hits him that often. And against the button or cutoff, I would probably run a bluff here, but versus an under the gun raise, I'll fold it. Normally, again, not a hand I would play under the gun, but these suited high card hands actually play fairly well against early position players. And now I'm going to bet, and while he might be slow rolling me, maybe he'll just muck his hand. I'm certainly willing to let people surprise me in that regard. So ace-queen, I'm going to 3-bet for sure. And the king river, I could try running another bluff, but I'm just going to fold. I think that if he had anything that he called the turn with, he'll probably be calling the river with it. Not a great flop for me, but I do have a fair number of outs if I get called, so c-betting into it is not a big deal. If I was the button, I would probably take my free card with this hand. But being them out of position, I'm not really going to have the option of guaranteeing that I get it free. So what I'll do is bet and then see if I get some folds. Hopefully I do. And then if I do not, I'm still going to often end up paying just the one bet that I would have ended up paying anyways if I checked. So it's a bit of a free roll there, see if I can find some folds. While at the same time, I will not always have to pay more than I would if I just check called. So here the under the gun player bets. I'm going to start with a call, see what he does. Fold there. And here I'm going to go ahead and fold in the turn. Very small pop. And after the player limps under the gun, and after the king peels off, his ranges get a little bit better, so I'm going to give him some respect and fold there. In a bigger pot, I would probably continue. Okay, so with 7-5 here, we have a loose player in the big blind. Normally, again, not a hand I would play, but we would have run it, had it folded around to me there. Now with a good king here, I'm going to stick in a raise here. Make sure I charge the diamond draw, which if the diamond draw is going to barrel off is not important, but if there's a chance that he might check fold the river, it is important to get that value on the turn. And in this case he has pocket 8, so that's fine. And king 7 off, a little weak for the cutoff, again normally, but here we're going to leg it up and see how much we can get away with. And maybe see, hopefully, what would make this really fun is if these players start to fight back. And then I can talk about how to adapt to people who are trying to counter-exploit your loose opening and re-raising standards. And that's where the game starts to get really interesting, why you often see a lot of 40-30 type players seemingly bashing each other over the head in high-stakes games. And the play does get very interesting, because you have people who are basically trying to actively exploit each other, rather than try and play sort of a balanced style, and which is not to say that they're completely unbalanced, but the emphasis is more so on trying to take away some extra edge from the opponent rather than just trying to fend off your better opponents and then you scoop up some small edges and some fish money and things like that.